Hi, welcome. I'm Tricia McDonough. I'm a pediatric neuropsychologist and part of the Empower Vela Ukraine team, here to go over session 4 with you. Today, what we're going to be doing is talking about the High Five program. And this is a program designed to support the healthy brain connections in the children that you are working with. Today's objectives will be to go through the 5th ingredient, or one of the 5 ingredients, I should say, of attachment. So you'll recall in our first session that we had our recording. I shared that we have a High Five program, and there are 5 different ingredients or elements in that program. The first is attachment. And so today we're going to go and do a deep dive into attachment. And the learning objectives for today include understanding what attachment means and how it impacts children who are in war zones or affected by trauma or loss. And teachers working with children, or psychologists or clinicians and other professionals working with children, to understand how they can develop consistent routines and the importance of routines and specific elements in your daily interactions with kids that will help build attachment and build healthy trust. And to consider how can you implement some of the things that we've talked about into your daily routine or your regular routine with the children that you work with. Before we do our deep dive, I want to remind you, as we've done in the last couple sessions, of neurodevelopment and how these High Five are actually based on neurodevelopment issues in kids and the potential for interruptions in healthy development as a result of exposure or lack of exposure to what they typically would have because of the situation that they face in war or in consistent traumas. So you'll recall that in the brain, the cortex, which is the biggest part of the brain and what differentiates humans and children from non-humans, and connections happen as the child ages. In particular, what we hope to see as a child develops are the connections into their frontal system, which is the purple area, and that frontal system has elements with connections that help with higher orders of cognition, of planning, organization, sustaining attention, problem solving, ability to shift set, in conjunction with the elements of pro-social behaviors and socialization skills, as well as emotions, emotional expansions, and emotional regulation. We talked last session about the limbic system and closing over the limbic system, and that's that frontal lobe that helps regulate the emotions and helps regulate the central nervous system's response to fear of flight, to fear, flight, or fight response system. So again, we're talking about this frontal system and connections, including cognition, social behaviors, emotional regulation, and emotional behaviors, and as well as the connections that this has with motor movements and the cerebellum in the back, and complex motor systems, and how all of these are integrated as a child develops, but have the potential for interruptions in normal development as a result of traumas. The High Five elements, you'll recall, include number 1, attachment, and coming up with ways to establish regular trust, consistency, and routine in order to create new pathways of healthy attachment when children have faced trauma, when children have faced significant losses. Number 2 is movement. Number 3 is regulation of the central nervous system through breathing techniques. Number 4 is expansion of the emotional language system and ability to regulate and label emotions and where you feel them in your body, as well as in your thoughts and in your words. And number 5, around pro-social behaviors and engaging in social interactions for the health of the child and the system around the child. Before we get into the elements to consider in the setting that you're in, whether it's a classroom setting or in working with children in any capacity, take a moment to consider that when you are engaging with a child, each interaction is an opportunity to make a positive reinforcement or a positive deposit. So consider, as you'll see in these pictures, that the child represents a bank, so to speak, as a metaphor. And in order to make a withdrawal, a request, a withdrawal can also include a withdrawal of their attention or withdrawal of their ability to engage in some kind of learning, or withdrawal of asking them about their emotions. You first need to make deposits. So you first need to build the bank up, because building the bank up establishes trust and it establishes capacity in order to make withdrawals, in order for the child to give something back, not only to you as the adult working with the child, but also to their peers and to everyone else around the child. So the premise of this is linked with what's called parent-child interactive therapy, PCIT. You may have heard of it, and we can provide a link in a future session to PCIT. But behind this idea is that you are partnered with a child in creating trust and attachment. And through the child's lens, you want to look at what they see, you want to look at what they behave and how they're acting, and make positive reinforcements and positive deposits into them so that they know that you see them, that you value them, that you want what's best for them, and that you're making an investment into them. They may show up each day with their bank completely depleted. And if you want them to engage, you can't expect that to happen on a depleted bank. So you need to first make deposits. So deposits look like anything from calling them by their name, noticing who they are, what they're doing, noticing everything from how they behave positively, to reminding them of things that you notice positive about them the day before or at another capacity. So making investments is a critical element of establishing attachment and trust. As we're talking about ways to create attachment after children have experienced a lot of disattachment or removal of an attachment to a figure in their life, or disruption in attachment to a setting that they're used to living in or a community that they're used to living in, you're trying to build trust, and nothing else can happen, or it's very difficult, I should say, for other things to happen in a relationship with that child until you've established trust. And this starts with building consistent routines. It starts with building a consistent way to welcome and to say goodbye, to begin and to end any time that you have with the child, as much as feasible, recognizing there are times when your regular routine may be disrupted. If you know that your routine's going to be disrupted, then having a discussion with the child of, when our routine is disrupted, I'm sorry, we won't be able to do X, Y, or Z that we typically do. But in every case, I'm going to try my best, or our best, or we are together going to do our best to have a consistent welcome and goodbye. Always know what to expect when you show up. They always know what to expect when they are leaving you. This also includes consistent rituals of using the high five framework that we talk about here, of elements that are when to expect them throughout the day and how they should expect them to happen. It includes transition plans with words and visuals for children to know what to expect. We often overuse words when we're working with children, and children who have experienced significant trauma. don't always respond well to too many words. Often they respond better to just using pictures that depict what you're trying to say. So for example, transition plans that show like a calendar or the agenda for the day that include a storyboard. So of pictures of what the child will look like doing different tasks throughout the day, of what's going to come next. And there's a clock, maybe even, and it shows the time of day and the activity with a word and a picture with the word, so that they're not over relying on language, because language can be difficult to absorb and to give back in the context of trauma. A visualization of a picture showing what the agenda is often easier. We do suggest too using breathing exercises that we're going to talk about when you're going through transitions. So when you transition from the beginning of the day of a welcome, you transition with breathing to the first exercise of whatever you're doing for the day. When you go on to another element in your day or whatever else is scheduled in your day, you end the first thing you were working on. Before you begin the next one, you do a transition with breathing, regulating the child back to where they are. Using storyboards instead of words is also really helpful for kids when they check in and they check out. So in a few slides, I'm going to show you a way to have children check in and check out with their emotions, to keep track and help them self-monitor. Again, the reason you're doing this and how this relates to attachment is it's helping you notice what's going on with the child. It's helping you build a safe, predictable space as much as you can. The next element that's going to help with attachment and help with creating a safe space is consider in the area that you're in a healthy healing environment. And that includes a cool down space, and what are the visuals and the words that are used that surround that child in that space. What I mean by a cool down space is a place within your room or in the setting that you're in where a child can go and just take a step back and re-regulate themselves. If you don't have a lot of room, it might even mean that there's just like one little desk area where they can go, they can put on some headphones to listen to particular music that they've identified as calming to them. So you could have each child in the class identify, what is my calming music? And you can load it into a player of some sort. And when they need their cool down time, they can go and they can listen to that. It can be in a cool down space where there's some tactile instruments in there. You could have some fuzzy things for them or some rough things for them to touch, to bring them back down, to help them re-regulate themselves. And we can talk more about cool down spaces, but cool down spaces are a healthy part and a way to create a safe environment. It'd be great to collaborate with the kids on what a healthy healing space looks like. So in their mind, what would our space look like that feels calm and healing? And allow each child to participate in that. The next one I'm going to talk about is underappreciated, but actually the research on kids who've experienced trauma continually refer back to this idea of having a circle time where there's snack or tea time even, right? So in your culture of having our snack time or tea time, because it actually is showing an attachment and safety with the child, that you care about them. You are providing a nurturing to them in a way that cares for their body. So don't necessarily only think about it as nutrition for the child, but think about it as how the child relates to you as a result of you giving this nutrition and you nurturing the child, to create a healthy attachment. This is part of the attachment system. And then the last element to consider when we're talking about attachment is how you can encourage children to teach others around them anything that they are learning from you. So how they can work in the system that is around them with their peers and with their family system to teach them anything that they are learning with you as ways to encode it, but also ways for them to feel proud about it and ways for them to feel like they're part of a solution on creating safety with others. I mentioned that checking in, checking out with feelings on a daily basis with the kids is really helpful for creating attachment and creating safety. And this is one board that might serve as a model to consider. That you'll see on the left side of it are visuals of an emotional face, as well as with a word. And it's a range from mad at the bottom to super happy at the top. And then word of how I'm feeling across the top. And you can't see it, but on each one of these little pins, a child can have their name written, right? And so you could take that pin and the child can just place where are they feeling relative to the visualization of their emotions. You can also take it a step further and checking in and checking out and kids monitoring how they are feeling throughout their whole body. And we encourage you to do this at least in some kind of a cool down space, or as you're working with children and understanding their emotions and how their emotions make them feel and how their physical responses are connected to their emotional responses. And this is one such graph you can use in a cool down space or in a check-in space to put at the top of a child's desk. You just make something similar to this, and you could just tape it to their desk and ask them continually to check in and check out on how they're doing with across the top is, for example, how is your brain feeling right now? Do you feel like anything from feeling clearly, I'm alert, I'm active, to all the way down to I can't focus, or my brain feels so busy, too many things going on at once? How does your face feel right now? Well, my face feels like it's smiling, to my face feels all the way down to it's crying. My face feels hot. My face feels sweaty. My jaw is clenched. You're trying to get them to be more connected with different parts of themselves in order to feel that they're integrated as a whole. How is my chest feeling right now? I'm feeling calm and I'm breathing calmly, to I'm breathing quickly, my chest is tight, I'm having a hard time breathing. This helps in a discussion that if they put some marker on this and you go around and you say, and tell me how this is, that helps create that healthy attachment and trust, because you're asking how they're doing, you're making investment in wanting to know certain things, and that creates trust and that creates attachment. You can do this with yourself too, as an example to show them of this is where I am, where are you on this? This is how I'm feeling around these different elements of how your brain feels, where you're feeling things in your face. How's your chest feeling right now? How's your body feeling right now overall? Is it feeling relaxed? Is it feeling shaky? A knot in your stomach? Feel like you're frozen in place? How are your hands feeling right now? Are they feeling calm or still? Are they feeling clenched? Are they feeling sweaty or fidgety? Am I biting my nails? Right? Down to your muscles feeling either relaxed or restless. Or your voice. How is your voice feeling right now? Is your voice feeling like it's calm? Does your voice feel like it doesn't want to talk right now? Does your voice feel like it wants to be quiet in talking? Does your voice feel shaky? Does your voice feel like it just wants to talk all the time? So using some kind of scaling for kids around how their thinking feels with their brain, how their face feels, their chest feels, their whole body feels, their hands feel, muscles, and voice, and any other things you want them to check in on is a way to help them get grounded, number one. But it really also is a very important way to establish an attachment. In reference to setting expectations for kids to know what to expect when they're with you in a certain environment, it means you need to have rules and regulations. And having kids help you create what to expect and what we expect out of each other and what they can expect from you. And when you can you will give them feedback and what it will look like will be so helpful to creating trust and attachment. So on this board, again, you notice the idea of there's both a picture of what's happening and there's words. So the picture helps orient and the words can help focus focus a child in. So classroom expectations that the kids have decided themselves they have of each other. And then there's maybe some that you've added in of what they know will happen when they are with you in terms of a safe environment. This idea of kids helping others and you being kind of a facilitator for that, of you are teaching them something and you are modeling something. And then as homework, you're encouraging them to do it with another peer, to do it with a sibling, to do it with their parents, comes from Bronfenbrenner and his model of the ecosystem that is around a child. So here you notice in the pink is the child. And around the child is the microsystem, what's in direct proximity to the child. And this is the peers, the family, and the teachers, right? Whatever's in their closest system. As much as you can encourage a child through giving them homework assignments, of having them try different things at home, and then having them come back and tell you how it went, that helps create a system of trust and attachment, not only with you, but it helps encourage an attachment that they have in the system around them. So it helps create a greater ecosystem of healing around the child that is not only present when you're not there, but the child is teaching others too. Today's goal was to help reframe this idea of trust and attachment and the importance of recognizing when children have faced loss and children have faced traumas, as they do in the context of war, in the context of migration and other trauma situations, that creating some consistency around attachment with whoever is becoming a person that's primarily involved in the child's life for more than, a regular basis, and creating an attachment is very critical. And so consider what you will do with your cool down space. How can you create a cool down space for kids, and what would that look like? And depending upon the age of the children, engage them in what that is. From young children, you might need to put things in place, to older teens. You can collaborate with them on what is our cool down space going to look like? Together, let's create it. And what individual thing do you need for you particularly? And often that can be, what is some music you want to be able to bring for yourself to cool down? Another element, or journaling. Another element to consider is the providing a consistent schedule, even in the context of having to move your situation or your environment from one environment to another, and perhaps even in the context of air raids, of knowing how we say goodbye, how we take account of how many children that are present, how they do a check-in so that they're there, how they check out, and how you gain contact with them so they know that you see them and that there's a consistency around that. What will you be doing for your welcomes and goodbye rituals? And keep track of questions and ideas that you have to share with each other and with us on how this goes. But creating a safe environment that is trauma and grief informed means creating one that is built on trust and built on ways to create attachment. And attachment comes from putting an investment in the child in their bank to start the day, continuing 5 times throughout the day. Have I given 5 appraisals that are positive to the child in some way a day? Often we encourage children to, once they've learned and they notice there's the high five that you're giving them for their attachment, that you're constantly, you've done your 5 of giving them praises, asking them, how many times have you praised a peer today? And so that's where the creating that ecosystem around the child comes into play. So how many times have they gone and they've praised other people, and that they need to make sure they do it 5 times with their classmates or with their siblings or with their parent before the end of a day. That would be a homework assignment I would encourage you to consider. Please give us feedback on how hard it will be to implement any of these ideas. And we look forward to seeing you in another short session for session number 5. Peace be with you. Peace be with your families. Peace be with your community. See you soon.